We've got to start with this awful story on the front pages of many papers this morning. It's amazing. There's a story that's knocked Donald Trump off the front pages, but this is very important to us here in the UK. There's more horrifying detail about the teenager who murdered 3 little girls in a knife attack in Southport last summer. He pleaded guilty to his crimes yesterday. He'll be sentenced later this week. The papers are asking how he wasn't stopped before the killing spree, because it now emerges he'd been flagged to the government's counter-terror group 3 times previously. He's 18-year-old Axel Rudakubana. He stabbed 3 young girls to death. He attacked 10 others while they attended a Taylor Swift-themed dance class last July. There they are: Bebe King, who was 6, Elsie Dot Stancombe, 7, Alice da Silva Aguiar, 9. His trial was expected to begin yesterday in Liverpool. He'd done the whole "I'm not guilty" thing right until the day of the trial starting. So the police have to assemble all the evidence. The families get ready to appear in court, to hear him fight his case. And then, bang, he changes his plea right on the steps of the court, and he goes guilty on everything, including murder, attempted murder, 2 terror-related offences, which were producing a biological toxin called ricin and possessing an al-Qaeda training manual. So he's on a lot of the front pages. As I say, he's knocked Trump off the front pages here. There he is. Why did no one stop him? And people saying this photo of him is very unlike the one we were shown when the crime happened, where he was described as a sort of Welsh choir boy. Southport killer plotted massacre at his old school. Why wasn't the dance class killer stopped? And in the Mirror, failed by the state. Yeah. The Home Secretary has announced a public inquiry. The Prime Minister made a statement this morning, so he's just been speaking, and this is what he said.
I will not let any institution of the state deflect from their failure. Failure which, in this case, frankly, leaps off the page. For example, the perpetrator was referred to the PREVENT programme on 3 separate occasions. In 2019, once, and in 2021, twice. Yet on each of these occasions, a judgment was made that he did not meet the threshold for intervention, a judgment that was clearly wrong and which failed those families. And I acknowledge that here today.
So it's obviously a very big story, because this is Keir Starmer speaking this morning in a special press conference about it. He then explained why more information hadn't been released before now.
If this trial had collapsed because I or anyone else had revealed crucial details while the police were investigating, while the case was being built, while we were awaiting a verdict, then the vile individual who committed these crimes would have walked away a free man. The prospect of justice destroyed for the victims and their families. I would never do that, and nobody would ever forgive me if I had. That is why the law of this country forbade me or anyone else from disclosing details sooner.
That's what he says, but Nigel Farage and others have said you should have told everyone everything you knew about him when this happened. You should have released not the photo of him as a sort of choir boy, but the arrest photo, and you should have said there are terror links, right? Because Russ, the theory is if you say it all, you make the rioting less likely.
Yes.
I don't necessarily understand the logic
Maybe there's
of that.
an argument for that. Firstly, I've never seen Keir Starmer so visibly angry, and his whole delivery changed there because it's so serious, this and what's been going on. Nigel Farage will always say what he believes in. He's a disruptor to many people. This is not an issue that anyone should take lightly. It is such a serious issue with repercussions all over the place. But I think we're going to have this public inquiry, Jeremy, and just very briefly, we need to know whether MI5 knew that he was a risk. Did the police know that he was a risk? the Prime Minister and Yvette Cooper, how much did they know? We've heard the Prime Minister say, we couldn't do this, that and the other. My goodness me, he's a legal brain and a half, as we know.
No, I'm not sure he's right about the case.
Teachers and relatives, did they know he was a risk? There was a family member who had to restrain him in a classroom. So they must have known he was a risk. Did the media know more and suppressed it in the good old deed notice days or equivalent of? You know, a lot of people who raise concerns about this are in prison now. Now, maybe some of them didn't do it in the right way. We all accept that.
We're talking about rioters here.
Yes, we are talking about people. But you know what? They referred to this creature, as a Muslim. That was incorrect. And once you get involved in going public with anything, you have to get your facts right.
Well, but he was an Islamist, no?
No, he wasn't. And
so why has he got al-Qaeda manuals?
Look, we've got a very, very... first time in a year I've heard Keir Starmer making a really important speech and pointing out the system, that our democracy and how it all works. He's absolutely right that while the wheels of justice were turning, right, it's really important to let that happen.
Do you think of any case that's collapsed where you've got literally 3 dead bodies and a guy holding a knife? You think of any case in legal history?
Do we have a rule-based society?
But I mean, his thing that
tell me what difference it would have made for the public to know all this before.
Well,
tell me. There would have been...
Well, I was going to tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was an information vacuum. You have people, as Russ says, like Mr. Farage saying, I think we're not being told everything here, right? That's what he said. And then people go rioting. Now, if they'd said, look, we have got terror links, we've got a manual, we've got al-Qaeda connection, we've got ricin, here's a photo of him. Obviously, we can only currently refer to him as a suspect.
That to get a fair trial, whoever it is, you've got to follow the rules. And they followed the rules. That Keir Starmer was absolutely... And you know what? I am sick to death of Nigel Farage. Every time he burps, the media rushes to listen to him.
But he was right in this instance.
He's not right.
There were things we weren't told.
Right. We weren't told because we couldn't be told. We couldn't be sure. As Keir Starmer has said in his statement, and you know I never defend this man.
No, I know that. I know.
All right?
No, I mean, listen,
but the other thing is then, to go on to the very important other point, that the school must have known, because there were terrible incidents in school where he'd attacked other children. He was clearly, doing very bad stuff. The parents were shocked that he had done this. They must have known a lot about their boy. There's a lot that's going to come out. And another thing very important, that boy, that young man who did the Manchester bombing, the only newspaper in this country which did a really detailed study of his life was very similar to this. It was Manchester Evening News. And you realise that at many points, somebody could have intervened.
Yeah, but there are 50 people in that situation. Only one becomes a bomber. And they can't intervene in all 50. That's the defence that they... Isn't that right, Russ?
Yes.
Yeah? So I don't know whether we'll find the authorities have failed here.
Yeah. Well, the question, I think, inevitably, there's going to be quite a lot of failure across the board. And the tragedy is what it is. But I do think, Yasmin, you've got to be careful about your almost obsessive hatred of Nigel Farage. He's entitled to an opinion.
Yeah, but I'm entitled to hate him.
Yes, you are. But
Thank
I think
you.
it
Hatred
might
isn't
cloud
rational,
what you're saying occasionally.
You can't win an argument with hate.
I think
No,
he's
you
a
can't.
pernicious, malevolent presence in our society.
He's somebody who a lot of people
that doesn't
believe
mean I have to be with them.
Is the future.
No, I don't.
But you can't be belligerent.
Any more than I have to love Margaret Thatcher. I don't.
But you can't be belligerent and never see the views of another person.
No, I can be belligerent because that's what he is.
Well, I disagree completely.
On any questions a couple of weeks ago, Danny Finkelstein accused me of sounding like Nigel Farage. And I said, yes, I'm learning his way of talking.
Well, I'd never say that.
Oh, you've never changed.
Never say that.
The problem is with hatred, your hatred for Farage is, of course, it's not rational. And therefore, isn't it dangerous that you may...
How do you know?
Well, because hatred isn't. It's emotion.
Hatred can be
Hatred can be rational?
Yeah.
OK.
Yeah.
Right. I'm corrected. Yeah. All right, well, let's see.